I'm very excited that our next speaker has agreed to come and spend some time with us. For those of you that don't know John Dromgoole, you should. He's been a leader in the organic movement for almost 30 years, and not just locally, but nationally. He owns the Natural Gardener. If you haven't been there, you have to go. It's just an amazing garden center. It's one of our Grow Green garden centers. He's been a big supporter of our program for the whole 10 years that it's been in existence. The Natural Gardener is also there's only 100 garden centers in the United States that are considered revolutionary garden centers by a garden association, and we have 2 of them in Austin, and one of them is, guess what, the Natural Gardener. So John Dromgoole, besides having the Natural Gardener, he also has had a radio show for 29 years. He came to Austin from Laredo and got here as soon as he could. Please welcome John Dromgoole.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming by. You know, the gentleman before me was talking about protecting the creeks, rivers, streams through some acts that the city has in place. And yet, they forgot one of the things that's really, really important, and that's the pesticides that run off the yards. You can't see them, and so since you can't see them and they don't accumulate in a way that you can walk up and scrape them up, then they're ignored quite a bit. And yet, they're really toxic. They are extremely toxic. And yet, for whatever reason, we allow stores to sell them. There are some box stores that sell trainloads of products like Scott's Weed and Feed. One of the ingredients in there is called atrazine, and this is a chemical that is in many creeks and streams across the country, from California this way. Of course, it's been banned in Europe and in Canada. We're the only ones that have continued to poison ourselves with this wonderful product for killing weeds in the yard. And this atrazine is, I saw one report where it's in Barton Springs in the creek down there and in other creeks around the city. And it causes, in some of the research that was done out in California, hermaphroditing in frogs. And it's all over the place. And I don't know what it'll do to our children, but this experiment will continue until they are affected by swimming or playing in the yard when there's a little moisture in the yard. These kids are playing out there, exposing themselves. So that was one of the things that I thought was missing from the earlier comments, the poisons that are running off into our creeks and streams that we can't see. And it's widespread. And you've seen it when you go into the stores that sell it. Maybe you go into the pesticide section. I call it Death Valley. And it's just toxic. So we need to include that in the runoff program. And these little barriers, they don't do it. You know, this stuff is water soluble. So it's going to go right through these membranes that we put out there and just run down the street. And, of course, you heard earlier where the runoff goes into the creeks and streams and, you know, our environment out there. So I just thought I'd point that out since it was missing from the earlier talk. Not that it was neglected, it was just a different topic. And so if you're using something like that on your landscapes, you better wear one of those little white outfits because it is that poisonous. It's just played down. The ads on TV show children playing on a yard that was just treated, you know. They don't care either. It's the money that they're after. So anyhow, I thought I'd point that out because an organic gardener would see that and does know about these problems that are happening because of the way we use products out there. And that's not the only one, but it is one of the ones, and it's one of the scariest of them all, and it continues to be used. We removed chlordane finally, quietly. We just removed the chlordane from the market, and we poisoned ourselves for many years with that. Cancer is rampant. in this country. Everybody here knows somebody with cancer. It's because we've exposed ourselves to this world of chemicals. So the organic technique doesn't need that. We don't depend on some chemicals repeatedly used. You know, if a weed and feed worked, why do we have to come back and use it all the time? The weeds should be gone, but they're not. Of course, they would be out of business if they did the job one time and you didn't have to come back with it. So this morning, I would like to show you a few slides, as they used to call them, PowerPoint, as they call it today, and just talk our way through this. And at the end of this, we'll spend a little time with some questions and answers. I've never lost a tree, a shrub, or a lawn because we used organics. And I've been doing this a long time. And we've never lost one of those plants because all of a sudden you're using organic products. So if you're in the world of chemicals, you can be sure that once you learn how to use organic products, and it's very simple, you won't lose any trees, shrubs, lawns either. So, and this is 30 years of practice right here. I know you can't tell, but it's been a long time. So where's my little doohickey here? Let me see. Okay, so let's try. I got a screen right here. Here's a few reasons why we should go organic, and your customers are asking for it. Our store wouldn't be successful if it weren't for the customers coming back and back and back for organic products, for compost, for these wonderful things that give them yard of the month in their neighborhoods, or have the neighbors coming down and asking, what did you do out there? It looks great. And the answer usually is, I switched to organics. It's safer for you and your staff, your customers, and their pets. This is a selling point when you go to see your customer and talk to them, or you've got a new customer and you're trying to bring them on board. Even if you use the chemicals, give yourself the opportunity, when they allow it, to try organics on the other side. You know, just do the two. And you'll find that your customers will prefer organics, and you've got a new, wonderful market out there, not the old one where chemicals are the mainstay. And pets is another thing that people are concerned about. Their pets are like children, and so they want to make sure that they're not exposed either. Number 3, it's better for the environment. We talked about this a little bit earlier, no toxic runoff. It uses less water. We'll talk about that along the way here. One of our focuses these days should be, how do we continue to landscape, keep our profession going, and save water, and save a dramatic amount of water, and fit into the cycle that the city has set up for watering. This can be done. And in the long run, fewer products. You may make an investment right here, but over time, it's going to get down to where you get that ride that organic gardening offers. There is this place where all of a sudden things are in balance. And now a landscaper might come back and do a little bit of maintenance here and there, keep that client, keep it looking good, but you're not having to put a lot of input in anymore, and they begin to save money. If they can understand that they allow you to come in there and start the process, the money is saved over, by the 3rd year, you're hardly doing very much at all other than coming and saying hi. But there are some products that will keep it going. You have to feed the life in the soil. And you will reduce diseases and pests in the landscape, and of course you'll begin to save work once you get things in balance. Look at this lawn right here. On the left side, an organic treatment, and on the right side, non-organics. I challenge anybody who's using organic fertilizers to meet me out on the lawn, and let's do a little experiment, and bring your best. I don't know what you're using, but bring your best chemical fertilizer, and I'll bring a little compost. And I will beat you every time. Compost is such a fine fertilizer. It's a great way to build soil, and it's as pretty as can be. Look at this. If your customers saw something like this, they want the one on the left, and it's easy enough to do. So that's an organic treatment at work right there, and it sure is pretty. So here are the basics of the organic garden: all natural materials for fertilizing, weed control, we can talk about that, insect and disease management. We focus on soil building with compost and minerals. This is what I was trying to talk about a few minutes ago. Protect and promote beneficial soil life. This is the secret right here. This is what organic gardening is about: a healthy soil. A poor soil, a dead soil, and the system doesn't work that well. So part of the focus is bringing life to the soil. And let's see here, well-adapted plants, of course. When you use the well-adapted plants planted in the right season, you don't run into the insect problems. You don't run into the disease problems because these guys are well-adapted to this area. They've already gone through that over maybe thousands of years of hybridizing themselves to be hardy enough to take the drought, and hardy enough to take the cold, and hardy enough to resist disease and insects. All of those, that little package right there, all goes together. I heard that you all are going to the Wildflower Center. That's a good example of what I'm talking about. Well-balanced soils and well-adapted plants give you a beautiful garden. I don't know for sure. I'll bet they don't spray out there. I'd be surprised if they sprayed. Where's Denise? Oh. I didn't hear you very well, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. That's the beauty of adapted plants. You don't have to expose yourself anymore. Planted in the correct season. This makes a lot of difference, and I can relate. I'm a big vegetable gardener more than just about anything else, although I love trees. If you're a vegetable gardener and you're planting broccoli or cabbage or one of these things in the spring garden, maybe right about now, this is the next time to plant these things, and they will grow and begin to produce maybe in the beginning of May, maybe late April. You know, the insects don't know seasons as well as we do. They just have cycles, and sometimes their cycle is 2 weeks in advance of the traditional, et cetera. And so this little black and red insect called the harlequin bug gets all over your cabbage. You can't seem to do anything about it. You can spray, you can do whatever you want to, and the harlequin bug doesn't go away. As a matter of fact, next time you look, there are more of them. Well, what does the harlequin bug tell us? The harlequin bug tells us that you're growing some of these plants out of season, and so it's their job to come in and get rid of them. And they do. If you don't treat them, they will get rid of them. So try to time your crop before they show up. Harvest those winter crops, and the harlequin bug, even though it's in the yard somewhere nearby, will not do anything because its host plant is gone. So those of you who have tried to manage that little guy, get those plants out of the ground there or plant earlier so that they mature, and you won't see a harlequin bug out there. So that's an example, though, of planting some kind of crop. It doesn't make any difference. It could be types of flowers also that out of season will be attacked by some insect or a disease. So here's the last one on this series. Encourage a balance of beneficial insects and birds. We're going to get to that in a few minutes here. This is the soil food web. This is what we're trying to protect. This isn't complicated, but it's a little bit long-winded to understand. And so just take a look at it for right now, and then go to soilfoodweb.com. The science of this is there. And you might learn how to take care of these organisms in different ways. And this is the secret right here. a healthy soil, well-balanced soil that's not damaged by chemicals, and you'll have a beautiful garden. So this is the cycle right here for the microorganisms that make the garden wonderful. Here's a list of the soil amendments that the organic gardener uses. Many stores that sell organics probably have all of these things. And I know that we do. The list was formulated in our store because these are essential. When someone comes in to talk to us about their garden, whether it's not producing or design a program for us to maintain it organically, we will pick up some of these products and show them to them. Let me pick one here. Look, here's maxi-crop seaweed. Seaweed is something that you might go periodically, once a month, maybe longer space between them, every 2 months, something like that. Seaweed is the source of all of the essential trace minerals. And that's very important. That's the balance. It's not just NPK. It's NPK with its minerals. That's the balance. If a fertilizer were in a barrel, an old wooden barrel with staves, and it was full of water and running out at some spot, it was because that part of the stave was missing. So it could be phosphorus, it could be the trace minerals, and it's the balance that keeps it nice and full. So I like to make sure that we have the minerals in there. And they're available also in a granular form. But seaweed is one of the oldest used materials in the world. You've probably seen the Irish bringing the seaweed up onto the land and building their land, and they do it all around the world. This seaweed is sustainably harvested. That's very important. And so it has all of the trace minerals, and it has 3 hormones in it that occur naturally: cytokinins, auxins, gibberellins. And these things, when sprayed on to a young plant or an established rose or other bloomers, with those hormones, they stimulate a root system, a stronger root system. So if you're planting, water it in with the seaweed, and you will establish that plant much more quickly by using that hormone that occurs naturally in there. There's another one in there that creates a situation where there's better branching on the plant. No matter what it is, you see the natural structure of it because the hormones that create those structures are there. So now you have a well-formed plant. And finally, there's another hormone that stimulates blooms. And so if you're maintaining a yard and you want to make sure the customer comes out and finds a yard full of blooms in short order after you leave, spray it all with seaweed. Seaweed also reduces disease. Cornell University did the research, Dr. T.L. Sen, of all of the properties of seaweed, and one of them that they found was foliar diseases were reduced. They didn't live in this area where we have the high humidity and other problems, but yet this is one of the steps that you would use in doing the yard, and it's very inexpensive. It doesn't cost that much at all. And your customer will pay for it. When they see the good results, the customer will take care of paying for that. So that's just one of these things that are beneficial. I'll find a couple of other of these along the way, and we'll talk about them also. This is my line of products. I designed this with green sand and nutrients for producing more flowers, different types of compost. We have so many different types of compost because they have an array of organisms, fungal, bacterial, and so I'd like to provide those things to folks so they have an option, because not all compost is the same, of course. And the one you make at home is great, but we're talking commercial. And these are available in bulk. And not being all the same means that some of them are based around fungal organisms. And you can see them in the bag sometimes. You open a bag up and you see them beginning to grow in there. Well, with plants of the forest, so that would be, if they're grown here, azaleas and other shrubs that might be growing in a forest situation, or trees themselves, I would use the Sylvan formula. Sylvan means of the forest, and I would use that one because it's basically fungal organisms. That's what a tree likes. Go off into the forest and get down on your knees and take a look at the compost that's there, and you're going to see this white fungal mat growing in there. Well, that's what we're trying to encourage with the Sylvan formula. It's designed for trees. Although there have been great results with perennials, when I put it together, it was based around fungal organisms, and that comes out on that soil food web. If you go back and take a look at that, you'll see the difference between fungal and bacterial organisms in the landscape. Another product, I talk about the products because they have a specific design. One that we have is called Revitalizer, and Revitalizer is an array of organisms, bacterial and fungal. And we blend all of them together so that when you or a client takes it home, it has the fungal organisms so you can spread it under trees and shrubs, and it has the bacterial organisms so you could put it on the lawn and flowers in the landscape. And so these are the two types of things that are in there. As a result, you're very successful because you didn't have to go buy two products, and you achieved the goal of getting fungal organisms here and bacterial. I hope that that doesn't sound complicated, but it's the way it is. And so if you learn that, you will see an improved landscape, a dramatically improved landscape. The customers will be extremely happy. So this is what I've designed in this potting soil line. Now, on the far left in the corner is a small bag, and it comes in a big bag too, of our fertilizer, the 824. It is a certified organic product. And the city, a few years back, with the Grow Green program, took that fertilizer and several others from the area and soil from the area, and it went to A&M, not the greatest friend of organics, but a great research university. And they took these products over there, and they tried the chemicals, and they tried the 824 and another 911, which was not organic, but still didn't do any leaching. And at the end of the test, the Bonus and the Scotch and all of these guys leached through the profile of the soil into the container below, but the others didn't. The Ladybug 824 and the 911 came out on top as better than those guys. A greener color, a stronger stem, and a fatter leaf were the results. Organics beat Scots with their atrazine. And the city did the work, you know. They did the research on this. Let's see here. So here's the heart and soul of the organic garden. If you didn't do anything else, the addition of compost would be what I would focus on. So here's part of that water-saving idea that I mentioned earlier. You put the compost on trees or on the lawn. You can do it just about any time except in the summertime when it's just extremely hot. But you can go out there and do it right now. There's no date related to the use of compost. So it could be applied right now and take advantage of these rains to wash it into the soil. Well, the compost leachate, the nutrients coming through the compost and into the soil, are the ones that feed those guys I showed you, or part of them, feed those guys in the soil food web picture there. And it creates a sponge-like condition in the soil. My soil at home, under my trees, I can just put my hand down in there and grab a big handful of soil from simply putting compost out there over the years. And not excessive. I haven't taken advantage of, I have compost, so let's just put a lot out there. We didn't do it that way. Too lazy. And in sandy soils, it improves the quality of the sandy soil and holds moisture there once again. This is one of the ways that we can conserve moisture in the landscape, and the city is going to ask us, and is asking us, to save water. When you use that, you'll see the difference. You will literally see the difference. If you want to, go out into the yard and make a little spot and do a test, and I think you'll see the difference right there on how that piece of ground begins to grow. Matter of fact, it's going to be the greenest place in the whole landscape, that little square, maybe 10 by 10 or 8 by 8, whatever you want. And put a quarter to half an inch down there, never takes more than that, and water it in. And in about 10 days, it'll green up, or maybe less. It'll green up very nicely. And slowly, it'll get greener and greener than the surrounding soil, lawn. Even if it's in great shape, it will outgrow that. Test these things that I say today, because sometimes it sounds like, so what? But if you want a prettier landscape and a happier client, these things work very well. So you put that compost down there, you water it in, takes a few days to kick in, and then it'll be greener than any other part of the landscape. And you'll be able to walk out there at night, or at least your client will, barefooted, and in the whole yard, find that spot in the dark. It'll be lush, nice, just be wonderful. You will feel the difference barefooted out in the yard. Try it. Try it at your home. Before you go out to your clients, try a little spot in your yard. And you'll see that you'll have to come see me for a truckload of compost, because you can't fix it. There's no fertilizer that you have or that I have that will fix the space around it, other than we have to put some more compost out there. And once again, it opens that soil up, better drainage, moisture going into the soil. So it acts as a slow-release fertilizer. As it decomposes, it continues to break down. That's what compost will do. It just continues to break down. Of course, I mentioned this, increases soil life. The texture, I mentioned that too. You can just reach down there. Any of the garden beds, come by the store and put your hand into one of the garden beds. And don't let Roger see you, but just go ahead and try it. And it'll go up to your wrist. And we'll have to come help you get it back out of there. It's a beautiful soil. And of course, it creates necessary airspace. Air is important to the life of the organisms in the soil. It is very important to the overall character of the soil, and this is what allows it to get into the soil. So here's another look at this process. And this one has, just like I said, a square of compost all around this tree. Looks Arizona ash-like, but not really. And so look at the difference. These other guys are putting out, whatever they're putting out, it's green, it's nice and green, and that's all they care about. But lush and green, that's just compost right there. So if this is what you want to provide to your neighbor, to your clients, and look at that line up there. Can you imagine after a few days, one neighbor seeing that line where you just went down with the compost and wonder, what the heck did you do? It's never looked so good. And then they want to do it also, and another neighbor does. So there's the beauty of the use of compost right there. It's just, you can see it yourself. And yes, compost only. Compost is better than any fertilizer out there in the world. So here's something else you can do with compost, and this is something you can do with clients also. And this is a compost tea. On the right, you'll see our brewer. We brew 100 gallons a week, sometimes a little bit more, depending on what the customers need. But it takes several days to go through the process of brewing. Well, on the left, I made my own little brewer that anybody can make at home. Of course, you can buy some that are a little bit bigger and put them on the back of your truck so that you can go out and do the spraying all day long. It'll be compost tea day, and you just go by your clients and spray. And it doesn't take much spray. It's almost like sneezing on somebody. You inoculate it, and that's all you're doing. And what you're doing here is inoculating with bacteria, just like sneezing on somebody. So it doesn't take that much to inoculate the lawn. You just go out and spray the different areas with it, spray the tree trunk, spray the canopy, spray the roses, and inoculate it. The deal that's going on right here with this tea is we've taken the compost and we've brewed it in water with air, a lot of air. You can see on the left, I've got a little aquarium pump going up into a manifold, and the manifold will take the air down into the water. On the left side, you can see the little stones. I put the compost in that bag. That comes from the paint company, where you put it in a 5-gallon container and run your paint through it and make sure that any particles are gone. And then I stick it into the top of that container, use that stick right there to hold it, and brew it for 24 hours. And so you can very simply make something, whether like this, a little bit bigger, or buy one, and start doing the service of aerobic compost tea. Now you're inoculating the whole yard with the beneficial organisms, and now they can live on the leaf of the rose, on the leaves of the lawn, on the leaves of anything that you spray. So these organisms now stop powdery mildew and black spot and other diseases from finding a place and food to live on the foliage, because it's taken up by bacteria. So as a result of that, you're getting more and more disease control. And you're bringing nutrients from the compost on there. So we mainly use it to inoculate bacteria on the soil or on the plants in order to fight disease. And I sell 100 gallons a week easily. And that means people have used it, and they come back, and they come back, they see the benefits, and they come back and use it that way. One of the things, whether you get it from us or we're only on the weekends, basically, and you're probably not working with your clients at that time. But I think that the basic inoculation of the whole landscape takes you down the road of no more diseases, just down to practically nothing. And when one breaks out, it's easy to manage. You just go back in there and do some spraying. 1 gallon of this aerobic compost tea inoculates 5,000 square feet. You can make this for practically nothing, kind of. Aerobic compost tea, just a few years old, I don't know, maybe 8, possibly up to 10 years old, and it has proven itself to be very different than the old way of making compost tea. And the old way of making it, I used to write for Organic Gardening magazine, and of course that's where I also learned about organics by reading that little magazine. It's maybe some of you have seen it. It used to be about that big, and now it's a standard size. And the way we made the compost tea was to just put it in a bucket and stir it to the right. That way we get the vortex from the sky to go into it. And then we would just use it out there as a liquid fertilizer in a can, or putting it on plants, especially roses. I go back to the roses because they get so many diseases that it's easy to manage with that. But a lady named Elaine Ingham, for however she came up with this, one day she put an aerator in the compost tea that we were making, and it made a whole different product. It made one that now can live outside in the air, and that's where we learned how to spray it. She's part of that soil food web, so you'll find more information right there also. But it's a we use it in the vegetable garden and in the other gardens, but we don't spray the vegetables themselves because we are using a bacteria on it, so we just spray the soil while we're working on it, or the compost pile. You can see there's a whole bunch of uses for aerobic compost tea because it stays alive when we use it. This is something really great. If everybody that plants trees or shrubs or perennials uses this, they will see a tremendous benefit in the ability of the plant to bring back nutrients and to go deep into the soil where more moisture is and bring moisture back to the plant. This is a fungus that lives on the root system of whatever you're planting out there. Myco means the fungus, and rhiza means the root. So this is a root fungus, but a beneficial one. And you've seen this too. When you're down there under a shrub or a tree or pick up the mulch, you'll see this type of growth down there also on some occasions. Look at the difference on the right-hand side. It's a powder, and you put the powder on the plant and then stick the darn thing in the ground. That mycorrhiza begins to grow very, very quickly and will go out into the distance before the roots ever get out there and start bringing back nutrients early. So with that deeper system, it becomes more drought tolerant. It grows a deeper root system as a result of this. And well, look at the one on the right, 11 inches on that one, planted on the same day with the mycorrhiza, and the one on the right, barely 4 inches of growth. That's a tremendous way. I mean, if we're going into these droughts and you need to get something established quickly and get the job done, that's it. Right there. It'll get that plant off to a jump start that you wouldn't be able to do with anything else, including root stimulators. This is the natural root stimulator here. Look in the lower left corner. This pine, that's a little pine there, has been inoculated with the mycorrhiza. Look at the size of the pine and look at the mass of mycorrhiza there, helping it to get established much more quickly. Putting in perennials, annuals, whatever you're doing out there, and it's water soluble. If you wanted to water them in, that's another way to do it. But that root system right there, bringing back nutrients, going down deep where the water is, helping that plant get established, that's the benefit of mycorrhiza. Everybody will be using this before long. This is one of those things that doesn't have a brand name. It only has the name of what it is, and so at this point you just need to ask for mycorrhiza. Look it up. Go on your computer, Google it, and read more about this. It's a tremendous fungus that is on 95% of the plants of the world. But when they come from garden centers or the grower, they don't have it on there. These growers use bark and sand and other ingredients that have no mycorrhiza. So they don't have it when they get to the nursery. So you need to buy some at the nursery. They just do not have it. And so you add that to your plant, and they're off and running, even under harsh conditions like a drought. One of the things that we can do, and I don't know if some landscapes lend themselves to this or not, but we can plant the family of umbellifera. And so this right here is fennel and cilantro. And are those other things on here? Okay. So here's some fennel right here. Here's some cilantro growing right here. Look at the flowers on that. Cilantro blooms at this time of the year because it doesn't grow. This is one of those plants, if you keep trying to force it to grow and pinching it off, you're defeating yourself because it's all over. It grew since fall all the way through the winter. Planting it here in the spring does nothing. It'll bolt at this size versus one that's been out there all summer long. Let me see who else is right here. This is buckwheat. Buckwheat can be kind of neat in the garden, in between shrubs. Got a beautiful flower. All three of those plants, and there are many more, attract beneficial insects early in the spring. These guys all bolt, well, two of them bolt, and this one is later on, the buckwheat. It's a pretty plant. And each one of them attracts many different types of beneficial insects very early in the season there. And that, when I see the beneficials on that plant, I know that real soon they'll be all over the garden. I don't have to do anything. Even if I see, or you see, ladybugs at work on any new plant in the garden. Let's say tomato, because you can plant them too early and get them chilled a few times and all of that business. You watch the ladybug at work, and what she'll do is she'll crawl up that stem on the tomato, eating aphids along the way, and I'll show you in a few minutes, eating aphids. And when she gets to the top, she leaves a few. That's her seed crop for next time. If she eats everything, she has nothing to eat, or her young have nothing to eat. So she'll get all the way to the top, stop short where there's still some aphids, and go on her way. So when you see these small amounts of aphids or some other soft-bodied small insects, leave them alone. They are the only thing that will attract these beneficials to the garden. And at the different life stages of these beneficials, they're voracious eaters. So you don't have to worry about an aphid taking over the garden or some other insect just taking over the garden. It really doesn't work that way. Some have to be there in order for the beneficials to eat. But if you're starting out a garden and you haven't, many of the flowers that they like, the flowers that they like, or food out there, especially in the summertime, the beneficials like daisy-like flowers. It can be the Blackfoot daisy or any daisy-like flower. Could be a marguerite, it's just sunflowers, all of these things. They will eat the pollen off of these plants when there's nothing else out there for them to eat. So always plant some of the open-faced flowers like sunflowers in the garden, or any other place in the garden. Like I said, the Blackfoots would be a great choice. And you will have that place right there for beneficials also. They'll feed on the pollen. Buckwheat's a great one, though. There they are. That's the ladybug family. On the left is the adult doing exactly what I said. It's on a daisy-like flower and getting pollen from right there. That's what her eggs look like when you're looking under leaves. I know that each one of us does this. You know, this is the nature of the gardener. We're looking for something down there, and what we're looking for are harmful insects, scale, something is getting away from us. So we all have that practice of walking up. Someone can be talking to me out in the garden, and I'm talking to him going. And that's the way it is. So they're the ladybug eggs, so you can recognize them and look for them, because if you're about to spray, the ladybugs are there and waiting for something to eat. The green lacewing and the ladybug and others will lay their eggs where there's going to be a problem. She's not going to leave her eggs out in a place that's just not connected to anything at all, no real food sources. And so when I see the eggs, I know that there's going to be a problem later. But it's already been solved. She laid her eggs there, and as the problem breaks out, her eggs are going to hatch, and they're going to have something to eat. She would not leave them without food. She's a mother, and that's how it's done. She leaves them right where there's going to be food. And for me, for me it's a signal. Something's going to happen, but it's already taken care of. There they are. There she is at the larval stage. A lot of people don't recognize her at that stage. They bring me bags full of this. And we really appreciate that. But they don't know what that is, and they'll bring them to me and say, these are all over my plant. And of course, we go through the explanation of what that is and the benefits of it, and to take it back home. And then it'll complete its cycle and go back again. And so recognizing these different stages is key to keeping the balance out there. But that larval stage right there is the one that most people don't recognize. And that's the one that's the most voracious eater out in the landscape. Voracious means they're teenagers and they're just going to eat like crazy. Let's see here. Here's the green lacewing, probably one of the best beneficial insects. We recognize the ladybug as a great one. She's the poster child of the organic gardener. But there's a lot more out there, and I think the green lacewing is really one of the best. Well, there she is on the bottom. You'll see her, I think maybe she's already out there, but you'll see her in the warm months in the summertime on the front porch flying around the light. Little laced wing, golden-eyed, small, beautiful little insect. And that's where you get to see her all the time. But she's another one of those that lays the eggs where there's going to be a problem. And those are the eggs in that upper left corner. I know you've all seen them when you're looking at plants. You'll see this little thread with a ball on top of it. Very unusual looking thing. And if you don't know much about insects, this is one that you need to learn about also. They're raised up on that little thread so the ants can't get them. And so there's the larval stage. You can see her amongst the aphids in there feeding. As a matter of fact, she is eating, what she does is she drinks them like malts. And so there's one that's almost over. You can see its little white carcass right there, and she'll turn around and get another one. In the lower left of that square, you can see one that's already, looks like a chocolate malt right there. She just took that thing and devoured it. And there's some more in there, and they're not going anywhere. She's going to turn around and get them. She's pretty fast, but it looks like an insect that you don't want in the garden, and yet it's a very important insect out there. For me, one of the more important ones. But recognize those little eggs right there. You're going to see them everywhere. They're probably out there right now because she laid them last fall, and they're just waiting for spring to come around and take care of the insects out there. I've been given the signal to hurry up, and I guess it's appropriate. So here she is again. You can see the little dried out ones, and they just suck them dry. And the other guys, there's one in the middle of the bottom that she's already gotten. And here come these other guys not knowing what's next for them. They're looking for food. So you can see them at work. They do the job. People bring us, we have a couple of microscopes at the store, so that when people bring us a sample of these guys all over their trees or in the garden somewhere, and we'll put it on the microscope, and we have a projector over here. And so we're able to show them that it's true that they have aphids, but if they look closely, and we'll show them that too, there's a beneficial taking care of things. So if they go home and spray, they really threw things out of balance again. And we don't like to sell sprays. We have a bunch of them, but it's usually a person just coming on board with organics that may need it because they haven't reached the balance yet. But we know that mistakes happen and beneficials can be affected here. That's why we try to teach what these guys look like. A lot of worms are in the trees or up in the pecans, or you probably deal with many types of worms in different trees. If you would release the Trichogramma wasp out in the landscape, a few of them a year, they're not expensive, they're very effective, and you don't have to spray any lizards or young birds that are up in the tree in their nests. You just let these guys go, and they will parasitize the worms up there. And you can see a parasitized worm at the very bottom. Those are all cocoons. And so when you see that, you never want to do anything because that is a crop again. So we leave these guys alone and let them do their thing. They've already gotten in trouble. And so these are going to be the ways you do this. Wasps are beneficial insects. not when you run into a nest, but when you see them out there on the eaves of the house. You know, if you want to tell a client how to manage them, they're going to say, well, I don't want them anyway. Okay. So what you do, if they'll let you, is you paint the ceiling sky blue under the eaves all the way around the house. That's the end of the wasps. They will not come back and establish themselves on these blue areas. Check it out. Try it. You'll see that they're not going to be there. I like to leave a space for them, though, because I want the wasps around, because they eat worms. If you ever wondered what a wasp eats, they eat worms. That's their diet. And so they will go, well, that picture on the right, there he goes. He's got his worm. And if he can get out, if he can get into the wasp nest, and what you do is you take, the eggs, where the worms are, you take a bamboo pole, poke a hole up there, and then they will fly in and out of there all day long, taking worms. So this is your control. Leaving the wasps alone would be a wonderful way of managing. Here's another beneficial. The spider catches them in the webs, does a very good job. Some of the webs are in the wrong place and can catch a hummingbird, but they also catch other insects. He's got something big in the middle right there, and he's beginning to wrap it for later. Spiders are very beneficial. The robber fly you probably see out there all the time and don't know what it is or if it's harmful or not, but this is another beneficial insect. You can see an insect in his mouth there on the right. Here's some of the lawn pests, fire ants, grubs, chinch bugs, fleas, beneficial nematodes, very effective product. If they got a flea problem, if they have a flea problem, the beneficial nematodes gets rid of them. If they have a grub worm problem, the beneficial nematodes gets rid of them. If they have a fire ant problem, the beneficial insects get rid of them. And here's the chinch bug down here on the lower left. He is best controlled. What we see as the best control is diatomaceous earth dusted on them. Works very well. So if you see a problem like that, go in there with the DE and dust it on them, and you've got very good control. The thing about DE is do not breathe the dust. That's very important. There aren't any products that you can breathe the dust, but DE is especially potent. Lawn pest control products, the organic fire ant control on the left. Here's the next thing is a compost tea orange oil blend, and it is drenched into the mound and gives excellent control. There's orange oil, diatomaceous earth. This little product in the bottom is the antidote. These are the beneficial nematodes I was talking about. Easy to use and extremely effective. Of the thousands of them that I've sold, just a few have come back, and I just think they were improperly used. But that's how effective it is. Rarely does someone come back and say that didn't work. And the insect killer from EcoSmart, the lawn and garden spray, which is a spinosad spray, all of these can work very well out in the lawn, which seems to be the area where the biggest problems are. Some people are getting results when they use dry molasses in their landscape. Dry molasses is not unlike compost in that it feeds the soil. I think the good results they're getting from the molasses is we're increasing so many organisms in that area that they literally attack the ants. Mosquito control, there's plenty of it. If you have a client that's talking about getting rid of the mosquitoes, the left one is a pheromone trap. The mosquito dunks, the Bacillus thuringiensis, israeliensis. So both of those, these are the bits, can go in small areas, fountains, things like that. The cedar mosquito repellent. Mosquito barrier is a garlic spray. There's an incense there. And once again, the EcoSmart. Sluggo for slugs and pill bugs. Works on both. There's two types there, but it works on both. Here's your garden dust, caterpillar killer. The garden dust and the dipel are BT in a dust form. And of course, the hot pepper wax, a traditional thing we used to make at home, but it's now available, and it repels the insects. You can see on the bottom many other sprays. Kaolin clay is something that I don't think everybody would use, but a few years ago you might remember when the environment was under attack around here by grasshoppers. They were just eating everything. They were eating the fruit on the fruit trees, and all they left was the pit, and they ate the fruit. It was a bad year. And so the only thing that was that you could depend on that would do the job was the kaolin clay. This is what they make pottery and other things of that nature out of. Kaolin is a city in China, and this powder, when blended with water and sprayed onto the trees or shrubs or whatever you wanted to protect, left a white residue there, not harmful at all, and the grasshoppers wouldn't feed on it. The next rain washed it off. It's very safe, but the grasshoppers wouldn't feed on it. Just showing you that in case we ever get back into one of those plagues. It may not be what your client wants to come home and see, that all the plants are white, but the grasshoppers will be gone. Diseases, we can use actinovate and serenade to control these diseases. They work very well. People would not come back. They'd go to one of the box stores if it wasn't doing the job, and it does. Actinovate is a product you need to know about. It's good for foliar diseases and soil diseases. It's really something, if you don't know about it, worth investigating. It's made right here in Texas. Here's more diseases. The actinovate controls these diseases, but so does serenade. More disease management. I don't like the sulfur as much, except in the wintertime, but cornmeal, the serenade, well, all of these things. There's the actinovate down there. Actinovate, actino iron, is a tremendous little product right there. It's a very good product. Use it on one of your landscape lawns, and you'll see that the disease goes away, and it greens right up, and the bacteria that are in there increase the availability of the iron, which is usually hard to do around here. Weed management, mulch bare soils, build a healthy soil. You know, I'm almost out of time, but okay. Weeds indicate an unhealthy soil many times. Go out into the landscape. Go to one of the clients' homes or anywhere really, and where everything is healthy, there are no weeds. In flower beds that are healthy, there are no weeds. They don't like a healthy soil. It's unlikely that weeds will invade a spot that you spent some time composting and building. The weeds just aren't there. They're in the poor soil along the edge of the fence or similar areas. So you want to get rid of the weeds permanently, fix those areas. Either mulch them or put down some compost and work it in a little bit. And nature will fill in a gap somewhere. So if you leave open areas, nature's going to come do it, and they're going to put the weeds in there. So that's important to rebuild the soil in the yard or anywhere, and the weeds go away. That's how you get rid of them. Along the path, though, you're going to have to do some other things just to keep the clients happy. You know the long run, but they don't sometimes understand it. Not when there's a party Friday night, you know. So the healthy lawn. Corn gluten is used as a pre-emergent. This is university created and tested and works very well, but it doesn't do everything the first year. It takes 2 and 3 years to get to that magic point where you've got the total control. The vinegar sprays, I make a product, and it's called Green Go. Green Go. I'll get it right. And this is a vinegar spray, and it's got some orange oil in it. And this combination right here kills annual weeds. You could use it on a lawn in the wintertime, providing the lawn's not growing, and it won't hurt it. If you have a Bermuda lawn and it's got weeds in it and you want to spray it heavily. Try to get rid of the Bermuda, another one of the weeds. So the vinegar spray is a very good little thing. So, I have to get away from the mic. They told me not to leave the mic. And I'll do on this side. Let me see if this has a price on it. For you, they're $35.95. But they work very well. You know, I wouldn't have brought it along today if it was a toy. It's a very, very good form of weed control. Okay, let's see here. And of course, never use weed and feed. We had that discussion already. I think it's an important discussion, exposing yourself to these chemicals or the environment. It's in the creeks and streams in California where they grow the food. And anyway, it's something to leave behind. Its day is over. Okay, here's a few sources for you. Beyond Pesticides and Northwest Coalition, these are two sources of information. In other words, if you want to see an MSDS sheet or you want to know atrazine, for example, since we've been talking about it, you go to these two websites and they tell you about their research. And so this is what we use all the time. So Beyond Pesticides, Northwest Coalition, two very, very good ones. There's a newspaper, comes out of Austin, Certified Organic Farmers. It is Acres USA. And Certified Organic Farmers means those are the folks who normally read it. But there's a lot of great information in there. National Gardening Association, Dr. Elaine Ingham, we spoke of her today. Howard Garrett, I'm not sure who that is, but Organic Gardening, I have to take it back. There's a TV somewhere watching me. Please, Howard. Organic Gardening Magazine, that's the one I used to write for. You remember I said it was kind of small? Oh, he'll get mad at me again. I said it was kind of small. Well, it was. And the bigger one, the standard one, is that big now. The small one was really neat. I used to write for Organic Gardening Magazine, and it was always in the small one. And so one of the things I liked so much about that small one was it fit on the back of the toilet. It wouldn't fall anywhere. I mean, I got a lot of reading about organic gardening that way. That's where I learned about organic gardening. You know our website. There's good information on our website, what to do this month in the garden. There's a calendar there, what to do, what to plant, things of that nature. Bob Webster, my friend in San Antonio, the KTSA Garden Show, he's brilliant. He's a very nice guy and very, very smart. That's it. Well, maybe we have time, 5 minutes or so, to take a couple of questions. Yeah. I'm sorry. There we go. No questions? That means I did a good job. Yes, ma'am. Well, solarizing is very effective. Oh, yeah. The question is about if you have a large area of weeds, what are the options for managing the weeds, including mulching with newspaper? Was there another one you said? It? Okay. So mulching with newspaper, it works very well. Usually it's about 10 sheets thick and then covered with your mulch or placed in the bottom of the bed, and then your soil and everything on top of it, either way. And it does work very well. The other thing that's out there is from the Easy Gardener Company, like landscape fabric. It's paper, and it's a type of paper that will last many years, but it will decompose. It won't leave that plastic rag down there that ends up being ugly in the landscape. And so it does a very good job. And it's paper, and it's recycled paper. And so I like that one. Weeds will outweight you. They'll be down there. They're just waiting. And it helps to get rid of them. And if you can, there are several other hoes besides that one. And one of them is... there are several. One of them is a winged hoe, and it's sharp on both sides, and you just go through there and cut it all you just are walking and cutting them off. Works extremely well. I like one, my favorite one of those is the scuffle hoe, or the hula hoe, or the stirrup hoe. It has a bunch of different names. It looks like a stirrup. It's sharp, kind of sharp on both sides, and it's a back and forth cutter. So you're going through the garden, and this is my favorite one, and you're just cutting very fast. You can get a lot done. I would prefer that over trying to put paper there. If you are in that spot, each time you're doing a spot, go ahead and clean it up, and then you're okay. And maybe right before that, put some corn gluten down there, because it is a pre-emergent, and it will help stop the growth of any of the weeds. So that might be the first application. I can take one more. Yes, sir. Organisms, bacterial, fungal. Yes, sir. They both are there. No, not at all. They'll do well in the same spot, but some do better. And so because of their specific use, trees, shrubs, plants of the forest, the bacteria is there in those places too. But we're just making sure that we bring in the right one to those areas. And so that's why I built it. So when you take it home, you put it on your trees, you're successful. You put it on the lawn, etc. But I always want the home owner or the home gardener to be successful. That's the key. Or they don't come back. Or they let you go as a landscaper because it's just not looking good. But it's not going to be. It's going to be better than ever. Yes, ma'am. Oh. I think that right now or the next couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks from now, would be the first one. And then about 2 weeks after that, the second one. And then a third one. They're not expensive. And you've got the landscape, the full yard, inoculated with the Trichogramma wasp. Did somebody? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. So Bermuda is not something that or that I have been very successful with, and probably few people really. It's really invasive and very deep-rooted. You can cut the top off, you can spray the top off, and it can still come back. So solarizing it in the summer is one of the techniques. If you're a landscaper, though, and it's February, and you're trying to convince them that you're going to get it, it's several more months while they're waiting, you know. It is a very tough one. Lyda, do you have suggestions? Don't till it, yeah. Well, I didn't say till it, so that's...
There is a method that some people have said have worked, and that's through sheet mulching, and that is with the layers of newspaper or cardboard and then mulching over that, but it is not a quick fix. It is a very invasive weed, and I know a lot of people use it as an inexpensive way to fill in a space with grass or whatever, but I would highly recommend you steer your clients away from it and not use it as a ground cover, because it's on our roadsides and everything already seeding the world. And it is the one thing that if anybody wants to have ornamental gardens or anything in between, that grass is going to be in there. If without a lot of maintenance, it will take over. So it goes through roots, runners, and seed.
Yeah. Sometimes we deal with it, you know, and just kind of understand that it's not going to go away very easy. I don't want to speak in the mic. And so it's a hard question without an easy answer. I just spring it on you if I knew it. But like Lyda said, Lyda's the manager of the Natural Gardener. Mulching it out during the heat of the summer, probably the best thing, best time to do it. Yes. Oh, good. Lyda said planting a tree is the best way to get rid of it. They don't grow. Well, I don't think there's any way of looking at it, or, you know, even these little home test kits at all. You have to send it to a lab and ask them to test it for you. Sometimes some of the labs ask you, well, what are you looking for? Because it's so much easier for them to find something specific than to go fishing through the minerals trying to find that one thing. But a lab is the one of the few ways. Some of the plants are indicators, and they may indicate too much copper or lack of zinc, magnesium is poor. You know, you can read them that way. But the balance can come from a mineral package, and it will, you can test it. Sometimes, if you're buying these things, the company name that you see on there will give you a resource to find them, and they may have an MSDS sheet, and you ask for that. The very best place, there are two places that we commonly use around here for soil testing. Anybody from A&M before I get started? Okay. There's two places, and one of them is Texas A&M, and the other one is Texas Plant and Soil Lab down in Edinburgh, Texas. The difference between these two groups is A&M will give you NPK, and they do it by testing the soil for what's there. But Texas Plant and Soil Lab does it differently. They test it for what the plant can use, what the plant can take up out of the ground, there's a big difference between those two things. And so that's why I like, and I have used for 20 years at least now, Texas Plant and Soil Lab. I can depend on them for consistency. And I know that they're testing what that tree or whatever can pick up versus what's there but can't be had by the other plants. That's the difference for me. And so that's where I would test for minerals too. Yes, ma'am. Our website is rather complete. We're finishing a new one very soon to add on the new products that have appeared on the market since we did this first one. And so what might not be there will be up very soon. But there's a lot there. Coming by the store, we have 2 horticulturists on staff in the back room. They'll be glad to explain anything to you. Good. Yeah, good. That's the best thing. Is atrazine going to be banned anytime here in the near future? They are. I haven't been following it immediately. I'll be surprised, but they always do it right before the lawsuit, you know, and they'll drop it. But I don't know the status right now. Hopefully, they're more than anything else, I'd like to convince people not to use it in the meantime. But it's been documented as very toxic, and why would Europe drop it, and why would Canada drop it? They're not smarter than us, are they?
That's a great way to end. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.